Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We are here today with somebody that I am very excited to introduce you guys to. We are here with F class competitor Shiloh. Shiloh, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Mac.
I'm so excited you can be on. For those of you that don't know, a couple months ago, I went out to Southwest Nationals, which is one of the premier F class competitions in the world. People travel from all over the country, they travel from international to come to this event that is in Arizona. And to my surprise, there were some youth shooters there. This is a rare occurrence when it comes to F class shooting. And I was beyond excited to see these people out there. And among one of those shooters was Shiloh, who was out there just nailing shots. Why don't we start there, Shiloh? Tell us a little bit about how did Southwest go for you?
It went really good. It was a very. I learned a lot from it, but it was also really fun.
You were out there with a couple shooters, right? I mean, I felt like you had like maybe two other youth shooters there with you.
Yeah, Josh and Jacob. Yeah,
And are those people that you travel with, or is just like they just happen to be there?
I knew they were gonna be there, but we don't travel with each other. I just knew they were gonna be there because I saw them
Okay.
on the. Yeah.
So you enjoyed yourself. You got to spend some time there. Do you remember sort of where you placed among the entire group that was there?
Fourth and mid range, and I'm not 100% sure out of 1,000.
Yeah, you did pretty good though, if I remember correctly, right? You were at least somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Yeah,
Um,
top 40. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, which is pretty amazing, right? I'm fairly certain if you and I sat down to shoot against each other, you'd beat me, which is almost a little embarrassing for me to have to say, right? As somebody who wants to be an F class competitor like you, right? I guess I'm looking up to you at this point. So you did really well. A lot of the youth shooters did really well out there, and we're going to be doing some coverage on youth in the shooting disciplines. But F class is really unique. Bench class is really unique in the way that you don't see a lot of even people shooting it that are like your dad's age or my age, right? People that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, right? It's a much older group typically, especially as you get to bench rest. And so when you look at disciplines like PRS, right, or rimfire, you're going to see a lot of younger people in that discipline. So what sort of made you want to shoot this discipline?
Um, so my dad first told me about like PRS, but we didn't want me to carry around like a 22-pound gun and go to station to station. So, but I really wanted to shoot competitively because I've always been really good at shooting rifles and everything. So we started looking at F class, and it was as soon as I started with it, it was really fun, and I just loved the sport, and I loved the people. So
Well,
yeah,
that's really nice, and I'm sure that they feel the same way about you. I know, that's a really good way to sort of talk about the comparison of the two disciplines, right? And having to move around with a heavy rifle throughout the entire day, not to mention the fact that you're young, but also you're just a smaller person in general, right?
yeah,
And so having to carry that around is quite a bit. And so F class is pretty nice, right? I don't want to say one is safer than the other, but you don't have to move around with an F class rifle, right? It sits in a front rest. It's pretty secure. It pretty much goes to the line, back to your bag. You're good to go. So I think there's a lot of things that make sense for youth shooters in this discipline. What sort of got you into really, I know I've talked to your dad, right? We're very lucky that he's allowing you to be on today and for you to talk. But what sort of made you decide that you wanted to be competitive at this, right? Because you can do like sort of local matches and things like that. But the unique thing about you and your family is you guys actually travel across the country to do this competitively, right? And that's another step. What made you feel like that was something you wanted to do?
so I've been shooting rifles rifles since I was 4, and I've always loved it. But I just feel like I wanted to go to other places and see how other people shoot, and like just socialize with other people who also shoot rifles, because I don't know. I used to not know a bunch of people who shot rifles because no
Mhm.
one wanted to. But as soon as I started traveling and meeting people, I absolutely loved it, and I loved meeting other people and seeing what their point of view of it is.
Yeah, and you guys have a whole youth group, right? What is that sort of like for you, right? Because we sort of talked a little bit when I had an opportunity to film with the World Open F Class World Team, the senior team, and you're on the junior team, right? And so that's like a little community in itself. You guys are part of that. What is that like for you?
I think maybe 15 juniors on the team,
Mhm.
something like that. So it's quite a bit of people, and but it's really competitive and fun, and
You like it, yeah, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time. Well, that's one of the interesting things that people, there's a lot of different types of shooting you can do. But a lot of people, there's a lot of sort of reasons why they like it. But ultimately, for most of us, it's just fun to do, right? To be able to compete, to be able to push yourself. So far as, you spending time with these other youth shooters, what is that sort of like? Because I assume there's probably not very many of them around you, so you probably only get to see them a couple times a year. Is that right?
Yeah, they're all over the country. Yeah, they're all good friends though. We're all good friends.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome because I mean, you know, normally at your age, right, you're only really friends with a couple people in your class, people that you maybe live close to, but you have friends all over the country, if not all over the world, I would imagine. And even then, I'm sure you probably have some sort of people that you look up to, maybe some mentors in this discipline that are all over the country too, which is pretty unique, right?
mhm.
Um, so that's a really cool. I'm a bit jealous, I wish when I was your age, I could have been traveling around. Granted, I did travel soccer and things like that, but I didn't get to do travel shooting. So that is pretty cool. When it comes to competition shooting, right? Let's sort of start here. Let's start with your sister, right? Your sister just started shooting. What is that like for you? Shooting with your sibling?
So I love teaching her, like, cause I right now I'm teaching her like how to do things. I'm teaching her the right positions on how to shoot, and it's really fun because I love teaching people and I love helping people, especially when it's my family. I love helping them. So
Mm-hmm.
we're shooting at 500 yards because that's at my grandpa's house. We have a 500-yard range, so we shoot there, and I so we go out there and we're shooting, and I tell her certain steps to do or how to set up, and it's really fun to do.
What does that look like, right? Just if you were to coach me, right, the same way that you help your sister, right? And let's say there's a rifle on the ground and you
Mhm.
need to sort of teach me like this is how you need to lay down or this is where you need to position yourself. What are a couple tips you would give me?
So the first thing I tell her to do is I help her, but I also let her do most of the work to just see
Hmm.
how she does it. So I tell her to set up her rest, put down her mat, get her rear rest. I want to see her do everything. And
Hmm.
then I'll help her put the gun on target because it's really hard for her to move the rear bag around and everything. So I'll help her do that. But then I let her get on the gun and I'll tell her plant your feet correctly. And sometimes she puts her thumb up. And
Hmm.
if you put your thumb up, when the gun kicks back, it hits you. The um, action bolt hits you in the thumb, so it messes up
Hmm.
your shots sometimes. So I tell her to put her thumb down, and anything I see while she's shooting, I correct her. And I'll also be wind calling her a bit when we're at 500. So I'll wind call her, and I'll be like, I say her name first, and then I'll say, hold 3 rings to the right or something like that.
That's
So
pretty impressive. So, do you feel like you're pretty good at reading wind then?
yeah, I still have a bunch to learn, but I am I'm really good at wind calling for my age.
How do you get good at wind calling?
For me, I go out there and at the beginning of the day or any time, I'll go to a competition and early on when we're not shooting yet, I'll be looking at the mirage and the wind, analyzing what it does. Like I'll be looking for steady condition and I'll be timing it to see how long that condition usually stays around and to see if that's a steady condition I can shoot in. And I keep it in my mind that that's a really steady condition and that I should shoot in that because I timed it. I know how long it's usually going to be around, so I'll know that's how long I have to shoot in that condition. And what I do in shooting, I take 2 7 rounds. So I'll shoot 7 shots in a row, and then I'll stop if the condition has changed. But I try to blow off 7 shots in a row, and then I'll do it again 7 shots, and then I have 6 shots left. And I do that just to, in my head, I'll think, okay, it's like having 2 7-shot matches and 1 6-shot match. So I don't have to think I have so many shots.
Mhm.
My brain thinks I only have 7 shots or 6 shots left. So my brain thinks that, and it's not as much pressure on me. So yeah,
And that's sort of like the mental games that you're playing with yourself,
hmm
to be able to put yourself in a training mode, right?
yeah.
Um, that's really interesting. Do you guys have a wind flag up at your house or your grandpa's house?
So we didn't usually have them, but we made these mini ones, and I
Mhm.
that's what I look at. But I also look at Mirage, and Mirage is super important because it tells me what's going on first. So if Mirage changes directions, I like the Mirage first, and then I'll wait like a couple seconds, and then I see the flags just change, and it's really interesting to me.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say something. Maybe it's a little complex, but I'm gonna sort of see how you feel about this. Okay. If I
Okay.
remember correctly, you shoot with the March 8 to 80 Majesta, correct?
I used to, but I changed to Night Force Comp,
Okay, so you're shooting with the nice four, and they go up to 40.
5 to 55. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Um, and so there's this sort of thing, right? Like a while back in shooting, scopes weren't as powerful, right?
Mhm.
And now scopes are getting more powerful. The glass is getting better. The clarity is getting better on all of it. And in F class, you're starting to see sort of a split down the middle. You see some people who you still use spotting scopes and their
Mhm.
scope, and other people that are only using their scopes. Are you a spotting scope person or a no scope person?
I'm 100% a spotting scope person because I place my spotting scope. I look for mirage that I think looks the most truthful, and if it's because sometimes the mirage doesn't tell the truth at
Hmm.
all. So I look for the mirage that tells me the truth. Because if a shot goes whack and I'm like, that's not the mirage telling me the truth, I look for a different mirage that actually tells me the truth. And
Hmm.
I'll be like, so I put my spotting scope on that mirage and I'll look at the flags with my scope. My Either sometimes I zoom out to look at certain flags with my rifle scope, or I'll just look at them with my bare eye because I really like to look at the mirage with my vortex scope because it's just way better and it
Yeah,
helps me more.
yeah, it's interesting, and I think it also depends on how you actually utilize your actual shooting scope, right? Some
Yeah.
people shoot with it wide open, right? So really far back, they're not zoomed in. Other people zoom in a little bit more, and if you're really zoomed in, you can't see those flags as well unless your field of view is really good on your scope, right? So there's a lot to sort of think about in that, and you have such advanced understandings of shooting, right? That's why you're able to compete so well in what you're doing. And a lot of this comes, I think, from time behind your rifle, right? Taking these shots, doing these training sessions, and then seeing what the wind does, seeing what the mirage does, and things like that. How often do you are you allowed to go train?
I train when it gets hot. I train a lot, so we'll go to 500. I'll start shooting a lot. So I train probably 5 days a week, or
That's a lot.
sometimes six. Yeah, we
Yeah,
usually don't shoot on Sunday because church, but we
yeah,
shoot a lot, and I shoot about 10,000 rounds per year.
10,000 rounds per year, and that is pretty much the standard, right? At least the
Yeah.
minimum of what I sort of hear in most disciplines, right? Obviously, like rimfire is a lot more because it's the smaller rounds, not as expensive. But most of the guys that I sort of talk to, or most of the competitors, they're shooting. Really, I don't hear anything less than about 6,000, but 10,000 is pretty standard. And I've heard, 20,000, upwards that way as well. And that's a lot of rounds to go through. That's a lot of practice to do, which, you need to do. Do you reload your own ammo?
Yeah, I do. The thing I'm practicing on right now is resizing cases. I don't usually do that, but I'm practicing on it so I know, because resizing is really important because you have to know it has to feel the same every time, and if it doesn't feel the same, that case could be messed up, and it could shoot out somewhere when you're in a real match. So I'm practicing on it, but I do everything else. Yes.
Yeah, it's good too for you to get hands on that, right? I had a match that I was filming at a couple months ago where he wasn't a youth shooter. I mean, he sort of was, but he was a little bit older, and his round exploded inside of his rifle, right? And we sometimes forget that if not done correctly, this can be dangerous, right? And so it's good that you're hands on. It's good that you're doing it, you're seeing it, and you're understanding the safe ways to prep ammo that we can go out and obviously safety is number one, right? Whenever
Yeah.
we're out there. But outside of that, you're out there to win, right? So now you have confidence in the ammo that you're making, right?
Yes.
What round are you shooting? What ammo are you shooting?
I'm shooting a 7 PRCW.
Okay. So you switched over to the PRCW with the rest of those guys, huh?
I've been shooting it for almost a year now, a little
Mm-hmm.
less than a year, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it seemed like maybe 2.5 years ago, people started to switch over that, maybe 3 years. The word on the streets is that there's some new cartridges coming. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So it'll be interesting to see what that's gonna end up look like. I'm actually gonna be running the 7 BSM from Blake Barrels. That's the whim size down for 7 millimeter. But I shouldn't say I know, but I've heard Cortina and F Class John talking about another round that Speedy's talked about. So it'll be interesting. Do you feel like you're ever chasing a different round? Or are you really comfortable with what you're shooting?
So in a couple months, I'm gonna be starting to shoot a 7 Wisdom. We're
Yeah.
gonna switch over to a 7 Wisdom, and maybe a 7 Max too. So
Yeah,
we're just
that's exciting.
testing.
And are you gonna build a new rifle, or are you gonna keep the stock you currently have and just switch it out?
We are currently getting 2 rifles done from Dennis Ray, and we're gonna send them off and get them painted and all done. And
And
we should have them in the next couple months ready.
this might be a little much to ask, but do you know sort of the details of the rifle, the stock you're getting, the action you're going to use, the barrel, the tuner, the
Yes.
trigger? Do you want to walk us through some of that?
Okay, so we're gonna be shooting a Dennis Ray stock with a Brux barrel. I'm either a 7 Wisdom or a PRCW with a Cortina tuner on it. We're going to be shooting a Night Force comp with a Borden Action Black Knight, and I think that's it.
So that's, I mean, that's going to be a pretty competitive build, right? You feeling pretty confident about that?
Yeah, really confident.
Really confident. That's what I like to hear. Really confident. There we go. So, it's been a couple months since I've seen you at Southwest. Have you been going out to competitions?
Yes, we've been going to Atterbury Military Camp in Indiana,
Mhm.
and we've been going to Wisconsin Lodi Winnequa Gun Club. That's our two main ranges.
And how are the competitions going for you?
They've been good. Grace is doing really good too, but I got third in Lodi, and I won in uh, I won third in Lodi, and I won in Atterbury. But Grace has been doing really good too. She actually beat me twice. So
So, well, let's talk about that a little bit. When you say you got third, you don't mean third in the youth, you mean third overall, right?
yes, third overall.
Right. And I think people need to understand that you're competing against grown individuals, right? You're competing
Yes.
against adults who have funds, who have the ability, who can travel, who set their own schedules for the most part, right? And have experience, maybe 20 years, 30 years more experience in shooting than you. And you're going out there and competing. And that's what I love about youth shooting. I talked to you a little bit. I talked to your dad. I was a coach for 15 years. I coached a couple different sports. And so for me, it's really cool to see youth out there. But in most other sports, you don't have how old are you again?
I'm 13, and I'm
Yeah, you
turning
don't,
14 soon.
there you go. You don't have a 13, almost 14-year-old competing against me, who's 37, right? Or someone
Yeah.
who's 50. And then not only that, beating them, right? So it's pretty impressive. And when your dad was telling me that your younger sister, who is how old?
She is 8 years old.
8 years old, has been beating you a little bit. That's really impressive. How does that feel? I mean, it must be nice because you're helping coach her, right? But on the
Yes.
other end, you are competing. So how does it feel for you as the sister and a competitor?
So I'm really proud of my sister, but I'm also a super competitive person myself. So sometimes I'm like, oh, she beat me, but I'm like, I'm super proud of her. I'm proud that I'm teaching her well and that my dad is helping her also.
Hmm.
I'm really proud of her, but sometimes I'm like a little like because I'm a really competitive person, so it's just
Hmm.
like I have to pick my non-competitive side over my competitive side, even though I don't want to do that, but I have to be proud for my sister because she's
Yeah.
doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about this is if you look through history in sports, right? Whenever there are siblings that are pretty, that are close in competitiveness and close in skills and things like that, it pushes both of them to a new level that oftentimes accelerates the entire sport, right? Because you have
Yes.
somebody to practice when, you have somebody to train with, you have somebody to compete with, right? You have somebody to talk about this sport with daily. For me, if I want to talk to somebody about shooting, I got to do this, right? And you saw it took us a long time to get this set up, right? So it's not the same. So that's really cool. And you have somebody to share that with. But obviously, you're training really hard and you want to win too, right? So, um, that's really great. So you've been shooting a lot of things that are a little bit more local to you. Have you been going to anything out that's a little further out?
We're gonna be starting to go to Michigan and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We're gonna go to a lot more places this year. So we're just gonna be traveling a lot. So
That's exciting, right? And you're homeschooled, right?
virtual. I'm doing not asynchronous, synchronous. So I'll be virtually on there with them, but it's gonna be it. And if you're shooting all around the United States, schools don't really like you missing a lot of school, so I really suggest online school. if you're gonna be traveling a lot.
All right. I hope your online school is sponsoring you for that pitch you just gave for them. Um, that's yeah, no, that's really awesome, right? I mean, my only really experience was that is when I was in high school, I got independent PE, so I didn't have to. I missed one class of school, so I could go work out. And there was only two people in our school that were allowed to do that, and it was me and one other person who was an elite gymnast. And so it is it does elevate you in a lot of ways to have a little bit of flexibility to focus in on the thing that you want to focus in on. And I have friends that are teachers who work with charter schools, who work with homeschooling, and they virtual schooling, and they get to create their schedule, and it's a bit truncated. And you get a little bit more time to focus on some things that you like competing, right? Yeah, which is pretty cool. Which is probably in a large way why you are so good and you are so competitive, right? Um, I see you're wearing a Brock's hat. Do you have some sponsors?
Yes, I have quite a few. Do you want me to name them or?
Yeah, tell us who your sponsors are so we can reach out to them and thank them for supporting youths in the sport.
Infringed Rifles, Eric Cortina, Brex Barrels, Seb Rests, Borden Actions. They're on the
Is
back of my
is Night
sweatshirt.
Force a sponsor as well
Oh
for
yes, Night Force and
yeah, for your
Lapua.
guys' team? Yeah. If any other come to mind, feel free to let me know, right? But I think we need to make sure that we are supporting the companies that are supporting our shooters. We need to make sure that we reach out, we thank them, right? Because their ability to partner with us, their ability to help grow this industry and give individuals like you an opportunity to grow is really important. And I don't have any sponsors. You're better than me. You're way sponsored, right? Black Plague has a lot of sponsors, but me as an individual, I don't have any sponsors. So that's very cool, right? And I think that's where a lot of people want to progress to in this sport. Now, sometimes it feels a little bit divided. Sometimes people just want to compete, right? And they don't really care about sponsorships. They just want to go out there, they want to compete. But other people, right, they're sort of hoping that they can partner with some of these companies. So far as powder, what powder are you using for your reloading?
Vitavore.
Dividivar. That's what I assumed, right? That's what a lot of the really top shooters are using, right? They've transitioned to over. I assume you're using Burger Bullets and Lapua Brass as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have the recipe, right? You're following the recipe and it's doing well for you.
Yes.
And your sister, I assume, is doing the same.
We have a little bit different things. She has less powder, so it doesn't like do as much to her. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, it goes slower, so
Sure. Yeah.
it's better for her, and we're gonna slowly work our way up with her.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know, maybe is she the youngest F class competitor in the world right now?
I've never seen anyone younger than her shooting ever, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty. It's probably yeah.
I thought you guys were the youngest when I met you. I was like, I've never even seen anything on youth shooters in F class shooting. So when when your dad said your sister was doing it, I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, but actually, I'm the fourth youngest. Yes, there's three
Unfortunately.
kids younger than me in the USA.
And on the USA team, how are you doing there? Are you one of the top shooters there? Are you sort of in the middle of the pack? How is that going for you so far as competing with your peers?
I'm at the I'm the one of the top. Yes, I'm not sure where I'm ranked, but yeah, I'm like at the top.
Yeah, I don't. Do they have ranking systems? I don't know if they really do.
I'm not 100% sure. So what they do, we shoot and they help us a little bit, but we shoot. They see what score and we pair fire. So we shoot and then they see our scores. They write them down on a whiteboard and then we do quite a few matches, and then we add them all up, and we see who has the highest score. And I'm pretty sure that's how they rank us, but
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure if they have a ranking system.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what your plans are for the future, right? Do you are your plans to obviously everybody wants to win, right? But I'm sure
Yeah.
you have a plan. You have a path that you're going down through. You hope to win a certain thing by a certain time. Do you have anything big that you're really aiming for right now?
So we, so I have like at Atterbury, those are like club matches, so I get to learn from those.
Hmm.
So I shoot 1,000 and I learn from it. So in Worlds, so I'm practicing for that and going to all these matches for Worlds in 2026 in London Bisley, and I'm really hoping I win in that. So I'm working very hard in that to win Worlds in 2026.
Well, we'll definitely have to follow that journey because I will be there filming.
Oh, cool.
So I'm excited to go out there and show you guys, show the world what you guys are doing. Especially someone like you, youth shooter, things like that. And so that's a great goal. So far as this year, do you have any big matches that you're looking forward to?
Um, I'm really looking forward to nationals. I really like meeting all the people in nationals. Um, and full bore and long range full bore and short range full. I mean mid range full bore. I'm really looking forward to all of those three matches.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, and I've actually had this conversation with a couple of Canadians, the language changes a little bit depending on where you live in the world. And even here in the States, it can be a bit confusing. Full bore is F class traditionally falls under full bore shooting. But a lot of people will consider full bore to be non optic. So you're using a little bit of sights, but not enhanced like we do in F class. And so for those of you who are following along, that's sort of what we're talking about. We're still keeping it in the world, and you shoot F class open, correct?
Yes.
And do you shoot any other disciplines?
Um, no, but we're going to a match this weekend, and I'm going to be shooting a little bit of sling at Atterbury because one of our friends has a sling setup that I am allowed to shoot. So I'm gonna see what sling feels like for the first time. So we're gonna see how I do in that at that competition. But I am I am mainly yes F class
Yeah, sling is a
open.
really interesting. I went to the Western States Full Bore Championship and filmed that. And they were doing sling shooting there. And these are the people that wear the jackets. Right, they're really all tied up a little bit.
Yeah,
And it looks really hot. It looks like you really
yeah.
sweat a lot wearing
I
this thing.
couldn't imagine to do it in summer. Like I would be
Yeah.
dying under that.
Yeah, it looks so hot. But it's so cool how well these guys shoot without, the advancements that we're using in open, right?
Yeah,
That's one of the things I love about disciplines, all the different disciplines, right? Is each of them are difficult for their own reason, right? And it's not fair to compare one to the other, right? Where some people say, like, this one's harder for this reason, or this, like, we're better shooters for this reason. Um, all of them have their own unique difficulties, right? And you look at something, let's say like bench rest short course, right?
hmm
Who you might think, well, they're shooting really, really close and that's not that really hard, but their projectiles are much smaller. So it's affected by wind a lot more, right?
yeah,
It's just really interesting. And so it's exciting to hear that you're going to be trying out something a little bit different. You'll have to let me know, or your dad will have to let me know how that goes, right? And I like sling because sling is sort of it's the cousin to Olympic style shooting, right?
yeah.
So if you wanted to go that pathway, it's a good way to transition. And I mean, who doesn't want to be an Olympic athlete? That's pretty cool thing to be able to call yourself, right? So um, So we're getting, pretty close to the end of the podcast. I do want to sort of give you an opportunity. We sort of talked about this a little bit earlier, right? But let's say there's other kids that want to get into shooting like this. How do you get into it?
So if you want to get into it, I would. So we started off on a not the newest subrest, but like the one that doesn't have all the widgets and everything. So we
Hmm.
started off on that, and we had more of the old like we started with not a super expensive setup. So if we didn't like it, we would be able to not spend a whole bunch of money and still be good. So we went to a competition. I absolutely loved it. So we started ordering more expensive things because I knew I would stay in the sport and I would stay with it. So so we ordered more expensive equipment, and now I'm here. So
So the trick is to maybe get something that you can go out and you're going to be able to compete a little bit, right? You're going to at least be
yeah,
able to send rounds down. You're going to be able to get them on target with some consistency. And when I
if you enjoy it.
transitioned, yeah, and see if you enjoy it. When I started in PRS and I built a hybrid rifle that I took over to F class, which I was really lucky to build it with high end components. I did it with a bad action. I did it with a Krieger barrel, so it was easier for me to transition over. But it was not a specialized rifle, right? And so granted, a lot of these guys are just better shooters, but I will say that there is something to say about the equipment. But I did that for 2.5 years and I just went out and I had fun. And that was the most important thing to me, right? Is yes, you can invest more time. Yes, you can invest more money, but really make sure that you enjoy this and this is something that you want to do sort of long term, right? Because it is a big commitment when you get into it, especially when you start buying new stuff, right? Those the Seb Rest are $1,200, right? So it's not a little investment on this thing that you're getting. But what we don't want to do is scare people away, right? I shot on bipods for 2 years. Now they were $800 MDT bipods, so there's something to be said about that. But I did a video shooting on $100 bipods from MDT, and they still shot pretty good. So that's a really great note for people, right? Make sure you like it. Find something you can compete with, something you can enter in with, and then if you really like it, start building up your rifle, right?
Yeah,
Um, Go ahead.
because something for me, if I don't enjoy something, I don't go through with it. So I have to make sure I enjoy whatever I'm doing, or I won't go through with it. So that's something I always do. I make sure I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting, right? Because you're getting so good and you're still pretty young, right? And you're gonna be a youth shooter for a long time still. And it's very possible that you'll be just as good of a shooter as the senior shooters for the world team, right? At some point before you're even a senior shooter. That's going to be a really interesting thing to watch, to navigate, to see this sport grow, right? I have a thing that I'm sort of working on right now where I have this idea of we're in the perfect time in F class, right? We have enough young shooters like yourself coming through. We've had an explosion of technology in the industry, right? We have a lot of information sharing between our community, which allows people to get better quicker, and it's a lot more accessible. So it's going to be so interesting watching your sister and the other youth shooters come up and see how fast you progress and how much more difficult you make it for someone like me who's trying to compete, right? And against you, right? So it will be really interesting because if you continue to shoot, someday me and you are just going to compete against each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna hopefully not have to go home embarrassed that you beat me. But in all fairness, you're good, right? When an athlete's an athlete, and that's all that matters. So, um, is there anything? Were there any other sponsors you forgot, or anything you want to sort of let people know about the sport before we go?
Um, No, I don't think I forgot any sponsors, but I'm just thankful to God and my family and all of my sponsors and everything.
Yeah, got to be thankful. And I'm really thankful for you being on. I know that being in front of the camera and talking like this can sometimes be tricky, but I think you did a really good job. You're clearly a great advocate and a great representative of this industry, of the long range community and the shooting industry as a whole. So we thank you for that and just continue to have fun, continue to beat people and work your way up. Um, I don't know if you guys have a social media or anything like that.
Um, Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, when you do, we'll put that out for people to follow. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being on. Thank your dad for letting you be on. And for those of you listening, thank you guys for the support. Stick around. We're going to have more youth shooters on here because this is the future of our industry. And if you guys have an opportunity, get out to the range and take a shot. We will see you guys next time.